Tripp here with financiallypossible.com. Today I'm going to address the question of why work. When I first started my career, my employer had these banners everywhere throughout their buildings that said, "Why work?" And I saw those and I laughed a little bit. I thought to myself, well, that's a strange question. Why does anybody work? Most people work because they have bills to pay. They want to be able to eat food. They want to be able to provide food for their family and clothing for their children. And so at that time I was really naive, and I thought people just worked because that's what they did. That's the way of life. And I think a lot of people think this. A lot of people have this view that you work until you retire, and retirement is something that's after 30 or 40 years of work. I really wish that somebody had come to me when I was in my late teens, early 20s, in high school and college, and told me, hey, Tripp, there's another way here. You don't have to work your whole life before you retire. You can find financial freedom earlier. There is a way to save your money, invest it, and achieve financial independence long before what people consider a standard retirement age. So it is a valid question. Why work? Why are you working? Here is a book that I really love. I've already read this book. It's one that I checked out from the public library. It's called Early Retirement Extreme by Jacob Lund Fisker. Great book. He asks his audience to question everything. Question everything about why do we do the things that we do? Why do we buy these things that solve problems but then create new problems and spend money in the process of doing it, and then go to work to pay for all these things that we bought? Why do we spend as much as we do on housing? Why do we need to have a car for every person in the household? There are other ways to do things, and he says that there is this other way. He asks the readers to investigate structuring their life in a different way. This book is really about lifestyle design, and there's this table in the book that I really love, which has how long you have to work in order to, it mentions how long you have to work in order to be able to take a year off of work. And it's really interesting because at just a 10% savings rate, which a lot of people think is pretty good, you have to work 9 years to be able to take 1 year off of work. Yet at 75% savings, you can work 1 year and take 3 years off of work. That's the way that early retirees really do it. They achieve financial independence through a high savings rate. Sure, the money that they invest and get returns on those investments helps too, but it's really about the savings rate. And he drives that point home in this book. Here's another book that I'd like to share with my audience. It is called The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. It is Warren Buffett's very favorite book. In fact, Warren Buffett even wrote the introduction to this book, to a later edition of this book. And it's a classic book on value investing. Benjamin Graham goes through different types of investments, common stocks, mutual funds, different types of bonds, whether they're tax-free or taxable. And it's a very common sense approach and very logical, trying to keep emotion out of investing, because emotion and reacting emotionally to what's happening in current events in the financial world, it is really investors who are their own worst enemies. And he really suggests setting rules, that you set those rules and then you follow those rules and you build an automated process for investing. And that way you protect yourself from yourself. It's a great book. I'm only a quarter of the way through it, but I would suggest it. Anybody who wants to learn how to get good returns on their money, read this book. And that's all I have for today. So if you want to reach out to me, please contact me.